Yes.
Yes.
Daniel, you're up.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Daniel Blumberg, and I'm a project manager with the GCRA. I've managed the Facade Improvements Program for existing commercial buildings, the Residential Paint Grant Program, and I've worked on GMB Cares. I'm excited to present to you the new Business Improvement Grants Program. Each of the PowerPoint slides going forward will have a page number in the bottom right-hand corner. Owing to the format of the meeting and to respect your time, if you would please write down the page number in your question, I'll be happy to answer them at the end of the presentation. So I'll be covering the program history, the goals of the revisions, proposed program revisions, summary of improvements, next steps, and recommendation. One of the key goals of the GCRA and the CRA before it has been to revitalize areas within its district. A method that has been successful across the entire state of Florida has been through the offering of grants to assist businesses in investing in themselves and by doing so their community. The precursor to our department, the GCRA, was the CRA, and it has had a program offering grants of this nature since 2003. You can see on this slide here Dick Mondell's both before and after. In FY19, we had just over $515,000 worth of combined investment within our previous 4 districts. Of that, just over $220,000 was GCRA grant funds, and just over $294,000 was private investments. So the goals of the revisions are to consolidate the 4 former programs, to clarify policy, to concentrate impact, to improve the administrative process, and to build a user-friendly document. So I'm going to go over on this next slides proposed program revisions. There were a number of revisions that were made. I'm going to be hitting the highlights on these slides. Again, if you have any questions, please note the page number and we can always come back to any of the individual items I did not cover during this presentation. So, as mentioned earlier, each of the previous districts had similar but different grant programs. As the old CRA districts ceased to exist, October 1st, 2019, the programs needed to be rebuilt into a singular program that covered the entire GCRA district. The evaluation of grant applications is done with the new tier-based funding structure and would no longer be done via a point-based system. I'll go over the tier-based structure in just a little bit during this presentation. The goal behind this program is to encourage reinvestment in properties and to help revitalize areas. To that end, buildings must be at least 5 years old to qualify for the grant. New construction, recently constructed buildings less than 5-year-olds do not qualify. Target corridors were part of each of the previous district's programs. The new target corridor list was taken from the adopted GCRA reinvestment plan, which was developed over the course of 23 public meetings, and I'll go over them in a bit more detail later on in this presentation. Under the previous programs, applicants were instructed to provide 2 cost estimates. The proposed update to that is estimates must be apples to apples and delineate eligible and any non-eligible work. This is to clarify what we are asking the applicants for and to help them ensure that they get some of the best pricing for the work that's going to be done. Previously, each of the prior community redevelopment boards had to approve a completed application after being presented it by a project manager prior to the CRA executive director approving it. This proposed change in authorization follows the city's guidelines for spending, whereby the GCRA director can sign off for up to $50,000. Over $50,000 and under $100,000, the GCRA director, upon their approval, would give it to the city manager to approve. And over $100,000, it would be approved by the city manager prior to a presentation being given to the GCRA board and then the city commission for final approval. This will significantly reduce the amount of time between when an application is received and when a potential go-ahead is granted for the majority of applications. Clarifying within the application process that the program requires a facade easement is required per agreement. This is just so that everybody, when they're looking at the actual application, will understand that there is an actual easement that is part of this program for the property. The previous programs all required easements as well for 5 years on those properties. Under evaluation of applications, this change clarifies that only complete applications are accepted and incomplete are returned for corrections. And under program guidelines, new grant applicants will have priority over previous applicants. This is important as it allows for more widespread grants across the city. And the last piece on this slide, going over some of the major proposed program revisions, is one in my mind that is a large one. It allows for the city manager to approve de minimis changes to the program that do not involve grant dollar amounts for program geographical areas, including target corridors. This way, if we find typos or anything else of a small nature, we can make corrections. We would keep a log of the who, what, when, why, how, and where that correction was done to the program without having to schedule additional city commission time to be able to reapprove that. So this map shows the GCRA boundary. Everything that's showing as orange is within the GCRA. The reinvestment plan, as I mentioned earlier, we had over 23 public meetings, identified target corridors within the GCRA district. The targeted corridors, as you can see here, are along Northwest 13th Street, Waldo and Williston Road, Northeast 8th Avenue, University Avenue, Southeast 2nd and 4th Avenues, and Southeast Hawthorne Road. You'll notice that Main Street is not listed as a target corridor. The CRA had at the time of the public meetings just completed over an $8 million investment along South Main Street, and while it is not a target corridor, the defined section is, as everything else within the district, qualifies for the Tier 1 grants, which I'll go over on this next slide. So the proposed tiered funding structure, Tier 1 is located anywhere within the GCRA boundary, provides for 50% matching grants of up to $10,000. Tier 2 provides for a 50% matching grant of up to $30,000 if 2 of the 4 below are met. The storefront is greater than 30 feet in width. The storefront is on a targeted corridor. The storefront is comprised of multiple stories. The business, occupant, or owner is registered with the City of Gainesville as a small, local, or diverse business. Tier 3 provides for 50% matching grants of up to $50,000 if 3 of the 6 below are met. The items from the Tier 2 list, as well as 2 additional possible items, the 75% of or more of storefronts within one building are being externally renovated. This requirement would entail a single entity applying for the multiple storefronts, or the storefront is a grocery store deriving at least 50% of yearly sales from groceries. The final tier, Tier 4, provides for 50% matching grant of up to $150,000 if the following is met. The building is listed on the National Register of Historic Places or listed on the City of Gainesville's Historic Local Register listings. So, summary of improvements to the program, the proposed Business Improvement Grant Program. The summary here is the changing of the evaluation methodology to a simpler objective qualification tier-based system. Tier qualification system allows for access to higher funds based on qualifications met. Small, local, and diverse businesses can potentially qualify for additional funding, and improved approval process allows for faster turnaround time to the applicants. As this was the presentation presented to our board, the next steps we presented to the board on October 20th. The board unanimously approved the presentation as given to go to the City Commission. And if the program is approved, we'll begin promotion. There are over 40 plus businesses on the waiting list. They'll be notified via email. We would do press release, GCRA website article, social media, GMV news. The FY21 budget has already been approved for $250,000. Participation in the program would influence recommended FY22 funding. And this was the same recommendation that was given to the advisory board. The Madam Clerk read what the current recommendation to the City Commission is. And at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Bloomberg. We'll go first to Mr. Hayes. Mr. Mayor, I think it's a good change to the program, but there's one area that I would like for us to consider changing. If you go to like page 14 and page 15, mainly on the tiers, I guess we could start with page 15. And then looking at tier 2, and there's like the storefront is on a target corridor, kind of getting to the next one, and below tier 1 is really just $10,000. And if we go to page 14, if we go up from that, so to get tier 2, as one of the options there, tier 2 is to be to get that extra money. I feel like we're leaving out some major areas. Main Street, yeah, we did do South Main, but we didn't do North Main and even portions of South Main. So I think that should be added. And then one of our one of our top strategic areas for the commission has been downtown. And while we do have Southwest Second, Southeast Second, Southeast Fourth Avenue, there are those cross streets that go through there, like Southeast First Street and different ones like that are in that area that I think still. We want to make sure our downtown is robust and looking good, and I think those are areas I think we should, if places want to spend more money, that we should support that. And then another one is on Northwest 8th Avenue, going from Main Street to I guess 6th Street or 13th Street. But we're talking about two-laning that as well and trying to reinvigorate that area. So I think that's another kind of area where we can discuss kind of the target corridor. But those are changes that I would like to recommend. So those areas are downtown, Main Street, and then 8th Avenue could be open to more Northwest. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Simmons.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I actually like the new tier structure. It just seems like it's more smoother. It's better. I was on the advisory board a long time ago with the old method, and it was just complicated. It was time consuming, and I think it was just very inefficient. And looking at what we have now, I like the tier 1, tier 2, 3, and 4. And to Commissioner Hayes' central questions or thoughts, I think tier 1 is suffice for downtown. It's a $10,000 match. It's a $10,000 match for business owners in that area if they want to look at whatever improvements they want to make. I think the CRA district map, as it certainly is right now, that this structure would really benefit those main corridors that we're really looking at to bring a potential development towards. So I really like what I'm seeing here. It just seems like it's a more smooth transition. It's more easily, I think people get it. Because what we want to do is to encourage people to apply for these type of grants. And I think this is exactly what it does. It spells out, it's very specific, and it's in a way that should be easily understood. So I like this, and I would like to hear what other people's thoughts are, but I would like to make a motion to move. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Commissioner Saka.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I agree with Commissioner Simmons. I do like the tier system. It seems that the requirements are easy to understand how to get to which tier. But I also agree with Commissioner Hayes-Sanchez on including parts of at least North Main. I know I drive through there on the way to City Hall, and there are plenty of small businesses that could fall into this GCRA boundary, but could also benefit from getting into that tier 2, but they wouldn't be able to because they're not on a main corridor. On a target corridor. And I think the same would apply to Northwest 8th Avenue. I think those are small but important changes that could hit plenty of small businesses in that area and allow them access to that tier 2 if they want to do more work. So those are my thoughts, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm inclined to go with the recommendation of the board right now. I think this is something that needs to be iterative, and we put it out there. We let it go through 1 or 2 annual cycles to see what kind of places are applying. Is the budget being completely used up? Is it being oversubscribed? That would tell us a lot. Is it being undersubscribed? And so, it's not that I disagree with the recommendations from Commissioner Santos and Sacco. But I think there's a lot we could sort of add or subtract from this. And the fact of the matter for me is that these corridors were arrived at after a pretty extensive public conversation, and they narrowed it down to these. And I'm inclined to respect that decision. And then after 1 year or 2 years, we see that there's a greater need. There's a couple things we can do. We can increase the budget to include more corridors, or we'll see that there's sort of under subscription in certain areas that they could use it otherwise, and we can change it. So I guess I'm willing to do the wait and see and get some real data after it's implemented, rather than being more speculative at this point. Commissioner Simmons, back to you.
And I totally agree with you. I would like to move that we accept approve the business improvement grant program as presented.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Ward. The motion was made by Commissioner Simmons. Adam, we'll turn it over to you for public comment.
And sir, I'm going to turn it right back to you. I don't have any public comment for y'all.
Okay, the chamber, Mr. Gomez, welcome.
Mr. Mayor, I do appreciate staff's presentation. There were, although we may have voted unanimously as a GCRA board, that's somewhat of a misnomer, because there was also some questions, and I think Mr. Mayor, one of your colleagues made a statement about certain corridors, and Commissioner Santos's statement was a very valid one, as was Commissioner Simmons. What I would like to iterate is, with some further questions and concerns we have, is how this would be marketed. The corridors have already been drawn. Unless you are going to go back to the county and add to the GCRA boundaries, which would cause a ruckus, I don't know how you're going to add in certain other streets to that, because it's already been established. We didn't establish that. That was already established by agreement. So certain corridors that you're talking about are not in that corridor, unless I misunderstood the commissioner. But I will say, Mr. Blumberg explained to us, Mr. Mayor, what I thought was really well done. This tiered system makes it a lot more efficient. The only concern that I had was the historical significance. When we started talking about how we're going to certain, and this is something Mr. Blumberg did clear up for us as a board, we asked about tier 4, because there's some, I feel like I'm not talking clear.
No, we hear you.
Okay, sorry, thank you. I'm kind of, Mr. Blumberg, what I appreciated is how clear and concise it was. Once we got past I think the historical registry was what kind of threw us through a loop. And when we were talking about, especially focusing on like tier 3 when it came to grocery sales and how we're going to track certain corridors, my thing always came back to, especially around in the GCRA, if we can go back to that, I don't know if it's page 14 with the map of the GCRA, but certain corridors when we're looking at them, especially like Waldo Road and Hawthorne, when we're trying to target especially industries to come in there, my question to Mr. Bloomberg, as well as some members of the board, were asking how this was going to be marketed effectively, because there were some things in the presentation that gave some of us pause. Other than that, Commissioner Simmons and Commissioner Sacco's points are very valid in that, yeah, it's very efficient, because what we had before, it was so mundane and rudimentary, it was causing some problems. But other than that, I think I really misunderstood Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Santos' point. So I'll just digress with what I previously said and disregard that, and just go back to the point of if it was efficient. The only thing I had a real concern on, Mr. Mayor, was tier 4. It's just the historical significance. Other than that, from what we had before, this is a vast improvement. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, especially from the process from GCRA on that. Okay, seeing no further lights, we have a motion on the floor to adopt a new and improved business improvement grant program. And this is just a voice vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed? That motion passes 6-1 with Hayes Santos in dissent. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Our next item is BB10 Neighborhood Paint Program, with a recommendation that the Commission approve the Neighborhood Paint Program guidelines and application.
All right, Mr. Manager, do we have anybody to present this?
We do. Chelsea from GCRA is going to walk you through this presentation.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I apologize. I did not realize I was muted. All right, good evening. My name is Chelsea Bakaitis, and I'm a project manager with the GCRA. I am here this evening to share proposed updates to the GCRA paint program and potentially move forward with an already successful program. The important question to be answered today is, why is an update to the program being proposed? First, it had to be done because of the new consolidated district. Second, more recipients had to be included in the process. And third, the reinvestment plan is focused on making broad neighborhood impacts. Despite the proposed update, the success of the program speaks for itself. Since 2013, 59 homes have been painted. Here are some examples of homes under the program. Ooh, this one was in downtown, and this one is in the east side. What are the proposed revisions? The proposed name Neighborhood Paint Program reflects the neighborhood focus of the program. The next change, the major change, is the proposed grant offerings. Then under the new proposed program, it includes the cost of labor. This is to ensure that the quality of work has a longer lifespan and allows for greater accessibility for those who had formerly been unable to participate for reasons such as being too busy with work or family, being elderly, or having a disability. By this new system, 35 homes could be painted in a single year, extending the impact of the program for the next 9 years of the GCRA. Next, the proposed program focuses on neighborhoods identified in the reinvestment plan by the public during engagement last winter. This neighborhood focus is inspired by an event in the Duval neighborhood under the former program. Neighbors on a street organized the Duval paint party within the neighborhood. 7 homes were painted, childcare was provided, and it shows that when neighborhoods commit, there are results. The reason the proposed program concentrates work per neighborhood is because this helps the GCRA realize the objectives of enhancing communities in the district. These neighborhoods were identified by our community as needing the most focus and improvements. The final revisions I'll talk about are just administrative in nature. The easement requirement is proposed to be removed. Our city attorney representative has advised that the applicant agreement is already binding, so we do not need to take an easement out on individual project homes. When we took this presentation to the GCRA Advisory Board on October 20th, they had recommended that the program be approved. And the City Commissioner recommendation is that the City Commission approves the program guidelines and application as presented. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bakaitis. Back to the commission, Commissioner Saunders.
Mr. Mayor, looking at the guidelines or an actual program, a home does not have to be homestead, is that correct?
Correct.
Sorry. Yes?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Sorry. It's hard to hear in these chambers here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And this is also only for single family homes. So I guess one of my two things I would like for us to consider is, I guess, why did you not just go with homestead properties?
A lot of homes are rented. People rent out. They might just have one home they're renting out, and they might be renting out to family members. The other reason is that the purpose of the program is to provide an incentive to really improve a broad area instead of just particular homes here and there. And so we figured that if we, for example, if we want to improve a whole street, this just opens up to more people being able to apply. That's why.
My concern is, I mean, I guess is it being used as kind of a profit thing for companies who, is there an actual, I guess, is there an income need or anything like that that has to be met?
No.
So that's my one concern is that this could be used by kind of people might own a lot of rental properties and just use this to paint all their homes when they can afford it otherwise. The other thing I think we should, so I guess I'd like for us to consider looking at a homestead requirement. But the other thing too is a duplex is owner occupied as well. I think it would be another thing to consider as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. This program, when it first started out many years ago, I think it was a shot in the arm, if you will, something to eradicate slum and black real quick. It's just slap some paint on it. And that was fine. I think we as a community we're okay with this, we appreciate this, but I think we should look at other ways of enhancing our neighborhood. One thing that I did not like about this paint program, and I guess it's maybe legal, I'm not sure, but there are a lot of, and I use like Porter's Oaks for example. You have attached homes, people that own townhomes, they are homeowners, but they did not qualify for the paint program. So this program is very restrictive. And in my opinion, it does not touch as many homeowners or touch many homes as I think it could possibly do, but it doesn't. I have asked in the past years ago and most recently maybe a year ago to look at other CRAs within our state and look at programs that they have. And one particular program that I had been speaking about was a home repair program where if you're in a CRA district, you qualify for certain home repairs to be made within your home. I did some research and reached out to those the CRA in those areas, and it was just a very clear-cut application process where if you had someone needed some assistance with maybe a minor roof repair job, because homeowners want those type of things done. You know, the majority of the people in the past that I've come in contact with say, okay, you know, I can buy my own paint. I can get my house painted. You know, I need to get my roof patched up, or I need to do something in my home to make it better for me and more efficient for me versus getting a paint job. And I'm not saying that having your house painted is not a great thing, but I think we really need to look at other ways that we can have an impact in our communities versus a paint program. Again, we have attached homes that are owned by homeowners that live in these areas that do not qualify for these programs, for this particular program. So I want us to really think about looking at utilizing that money in another way. And I don't know what the advisory board comments were. I don't know what was discussed about the paint program, but I just think we can do better. I think we can really enhance our communities in another way versus just putting some paint on someone's house. And I'm not undermining that at all, by all means. But I think we need to look at other ways we can help our neighbors versus doing a paint program. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Isakis.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think Commissioner Simmons brought up a good point about the attached dwellings. I think that is an important thing that do get left out. But I would like to move that we approve the program with 3 modifications. That it be owner occupied, that we allow owner occupied attached units to be qualified for it, and there will also be an income qualification.
Okay, is there a second? Seconded by Sacco. An income, like that so you need to show you make below a certain threshold to qualify.
Okay.
So it couldn't be like property managing companies. advantage of it, I guess. Yeah. Okay, let's turn it over to Adam for public comment.
We'll turn it right back to you, sir. We've got nobody out there.
Okay, back to you, Mr. Henry Gomez.
Mr. Mayor, this is where, again, I just feel like we're sometimes talking in a conundrum, and it causes great pause. To say that our board didn't vote and approve on this is misleading, and I'll tell you why it's misleading. In January, as a board, we asked the manager and staff this is not a project that we wanted to do. This is something that could have been done with housing. We, as a board, said that, and for somehow, the manager managed to bring this back to us when we in January said we want to deal with bigger projects. We want to start filing down these little tiny projects. When we were the East Side board, this return on investment for this plan was 0.8%. And we always keep talking about equity, and it seems to be nonsense. So we're going to slap paint in some places, and we're going to build nice buildings in others, or we're going to build tangible projects that we can see in other places. And you can just travel down Southwest 2nd to see GCRA projects, or go down Fifth Avenue. So what are we talking about here? Continuing a paint program. When I asked staff and when I asked the manager what the rate of return on investment was, the answer was neighborhood stabilization. Okay, well, that's fantastic. But when we're talking about numbers and people that have been significantly declined when it comes to economic opportunity and access, they're not trying to hear about neighborhood stabilization. Anybody, the housing department for efficiency can do that. We said we want to deal with projects of dealing with economic blight and slum, blight, etc. And it seems like these projects seem to keep coming back. But we are saying, Mr. Manager, we want to focus on tangible projects that are bigger projects. And for some reason, we're getting nickel and dime to do small things. That is not really doing anything of what we have said the county we're going to do, which is address issues of equity, have economic development, start having things that people can touch, see, and feel. And yes, nobody's going to say that it's not a laudable project. And I'm not going to sit there and say that it's not neighborhood stabilization. I get it. But when people are talking about wanting to see substantive change in the urban core in our downtown, seeing change on the eastern corridor within this district that people want to see, and all we're saying is the best you can give us is crumbs and slapping paint on buildings and houses, we can do better than that. And with the $70 million over 10 years, that you all have charged us to do that, and we're doing the best we can. 15 members of us are working very well together, and we said, we want to do something, we want to go in a different direction. This is not the return on investment. We want to look in a different direction and do better. And we said, hey, take those dollars, turn it to the housing department, Mr. Manager. Take that out of the budget for the housing department and give somebody else. Have paper do it. You have been doing everything else, but it seems like it just comes back and being nickel and dimed and nothing substantive like 8th and Waldo, like our downtown and urban core is happening. And it just seems like it's a ruse, and it's tiring. And the integrity in gymnastics is tiring.
Thank you. Back to Commissioner Simmons.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and you know what? I have to agree with some of the frustration that I hear from a member of our audience, Mayor and my commissioners. I just feel like this program, it's not, in my opinion, it's just not getting it. I think we really need to focus on another program that we can really have some valuable improvements in these areas. I think, again, this program has been in existence for a while now. I'm not saying that it's not viable or wasn't viable when it first started, but I truly think that we need to really start looking at other ways to enhance our communities with other low-hanging fruit besides a paint program. If I could ask staff, and she may not even have this information, but do you know, or I could ask the city manager, how long has this program been in existence?
So, Commissioner, I'm going to defer that to Ms. Vidal Finn, who wanted to chime in as well, and just give a little bit of that history that you're asking about. But I do want to point out before Sarah does speak that the GCRA advisory board did vote to bring this forward to the commission, and I know there was a discussion about return on investment. And my discussion with the board at that time was this represents 1% of the GCRA's annual budget. So we're not talking about spending a lot of GCRA dollars on this. And Ms. Godolphin could talk about what they're trying to do with the impact on the margins through this program.
City Manager, if I may, before Sarah says anything, what other options does a homeowner living in the CRA district, what other program can they choose from other than a paint program? Are there any other options? Have there ever been any other options?
So through housing and community development, we have a
CRA.
Through the CRA. I'll refer that question to Sarah as well.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. I did want to also thank Chelsea and Daniel. They spent a lot of time revising these programs and did a great job. And we were excited to bring them forward to you all tonight. I did want to mention that our approach since the Vitality Report has really been, how can we layer things in our priority areas? And really, this is one tool in the toolbox that's been successful. As the city manager mentioned, it's a smaller amount of money, but I did want to call attention to the fact that in the approved reinvestment roadmap, there are 3 areas of focus for us moving forward: economic development, community enhancements in housing, and public space and streetscape. And within that middle section, the community enhancements in housing, Commissioner Simmons specifically mentioned a program that she shared with us, and there is something called residential improvement programs on our roadmap. And so this is really just the first phase of bringing back programs that have been successful in our districts in the past and revising them so they can continue to be an effective tool in the toolbox. But we have to come back to you with some more proposed programs, because during the community outreach, I think we really began to identify what the neighborhoods want to see from us. You can see that even in the business improvement grant program, the grocery stores, right? The historic buildings. We're trying to catch the things that we know are important to the communities that we serve. And likewise, with these residential improvement programs, we'll be able to start identifying and drafting programs potentially around meeting greater needs. So I would just wanted to offer that and give some context. And Commissioner Simmons, I'll tell you that when I started with the GCRA, this program was around then. So that was 11 years ago. And I can get back to you on the date of its origination. But I thought that context would be helpful. And like I said, this is kind of round 1, bringing these 2 grant programs back, and you'll be seeing more in the future.
And so let me just say this. You have a residential paint program that's successful because it's the only program. You have a residential paint program that's successful, that's been around at least 11 years, because it's the only option that a homeowner or resident in this area has. So it's successful. And we're now going to take a look at the success of this program and create other options.
Mr. Grundy, your message, please.
So I just wanted the commission to have a whole context of what's being presented to us today. I think this is, again, we have to look at this. I think the paint program has ran its course. It's been the only program that has been available to the residents, to homeowners, to limited homeowners. And here we are again Another just, okay, we're going to continue the success of this paint program. I think we need to really consider this project, this program. I think we need to retire it, or at least not make it a priority, and look at other programs that we can start giving our community members choices from. I can't support this. This is going on long enough. I cannot support this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I do support this, but it's not enough. This is a step. It's a thing that is available now, and we're talking about making it better. I don't want us to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. This is good. We have another similar but far more robust proposal on the table to come back to us in a couple of months, hopefully, as part of the INVEST program I put out there a couple of months ago, to invest, for the city to invest $25,000 to anyone homesteading in specific neighborhoods who wants to buy, build, or renovate. So it's more than 10 times the amount of this one. But if people are taking advantage of this, if it works, I don't think we should kill it. We should do more. This should not be the only thing that we do. But I don't see killing this one if people are using it. Now, if nobody's using it, then kill it. If it's not effective, we shouldn't do it. But if what we're waiting for is a full package of things that is the whole deal, I think we're going to be consistently disappointed. I think if we hit this, every meeting or every other meeting, we have another thing and another thing and another thing. Before you know it, we end up with a basket of ideas that are useful and that work. But passing this, I hope, doesn't mean that we can't pass anything else. If this doesn't work, we should kill it. If it does work, we should continue to fund it at this increased level. That's my 2 cents on it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. It's interesting how these things kind of cycle around over time. I can remember sitting in this chamber with my former colleague, Commissioner then, Henson Rawls, now Representative-elect Henson, who fought desperately to increase our funding and reach for this program. I think at that time we were doing like maybe 10 houses a year, and she was getting a lot of calls from her constituents about wanting to participate, and it would fill up like early in the year, and then people would be asking, when can I? Well, you got to try again next year. I hear what you're saying, Commissioner Simmons, that if this is all we do, then shame on us. But this does make a meaningful impact, not only to the individuals who participate, but for their entire neighborhood around them. We have seen directly when one house gets painted from this program, other houses around it start doing the same thing. And so there's this amplified effect. This is a little thing. It's a little thing. But it's also very tangible and very real for the people who take advantage of it. I'll point out another program is the community weatherization program. That's not so much the exterior, but helping people with the inside of their house and their energy efficiency. There are some programs through the neighborhood department. But I would love if you would support this with the intention of the commission and working with our GCRA board to find out what else do people need that would be meaningful. I don't want us to assume we know what that is up here, but if you had $2,000 to go towards something that wasn't a paint program, what would you use it for? Is it a landscape program? Is it a fixing the roof program? Is it a repair in the driveway program? What would help you? And then working through that process. I agree. It would be awesome to continue building out how we can help sort of house by house, neighborhood by neighborhood, revitalize areas and sort of keep people in their home. This is one of those things to me. It's been successful. There's usually a waiting list every year, and I don't see why at this point we would turn our back on that. So that's gonna I'm definitely gonna support moving this forward. Back to you, Commissioner.
Yeah, and I certainly understand and hear where you all are coming from. And I just want to say, I have painted along with 100 volunteers 5 houses in one day using this program. I've done that. I've done that. I've also seen the impact and the difference that has made. To this day, that same street is beautiful because of the work that we did. And what I'm trying to say is, if you don't give people options, if this is something that you're going to continue to say, okay, this is the best we have, this is all we have, this is what you're going to get, and think that's okay, and think that should be okay, and say this is such a great successful program. Look at all the great it has done. Look at all the change that has happened because you haven't given them a choice. Who's to say someone had a choice between that program and another program, that this program will be a success? And all I'm simply saying is, this is not the first time that I've voiced my concern about the paint program. Members in the community have also voiced their concerns about the program, about the paint program. I can probably tell you the paint program as of late has been in decommission for maybe over a year now, or two, going on 2 years. So just imagine if we had another option for people. That's all I'm saying. Just imagine if there was another option, how we could have continuously kept our neighborhoods beautified and continuously kept it going. So now we stopped. You didn't decommission for over a year. No progress has been made. Now we're getting ready to gear up and say, okay, we're gonna make this program better. And I'm supposed to be okay with that. I'm just not okay with this. And I just think it's so unfair to the people in our community to have to accept and just settle for this. Yeah, and it's shame on us. And that's why I feel the way I feel, because the staff has had plenty of opportunities time and time again to come up with another option. And that's all I'm asking for. The community is asking for an option. Just an option. And just don't tell me this is the best we have right now and it works, it's proven, this is how it is, because it's the only thing we have. And I just cannot support this. And I know it's a great program, but I cannot support this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, we will move to a vote. There's a motion on the floor to accept the staff and GCRA board recommendation to approve the neighborhood paint program. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? The motion passes 6-1 with Commissioner Simmons in dissent.
Mr. Mayor, if I may interrupt for 1 second, I do believe we had a comment come in late on the neighborhood paint program issue. I apologize. I thought you were going to call on me before the vote.
Yeah, we already took comment on that, though.
Okay, fair enough.
Much earlier, yeah. So we're to commission comments. I just have one thing to share. First of all, I want to thank the commission. It is so good to see you all in person. These are far from ideal circumstances. It's very bizarre. Nonetheless, I missed seeing you all personally, and I want to thank everybody, especially all the public that participated from home and didn't come down here. That made our job a lot easier. And so we'll continue trying to do as best we can with this sort of hybrid virtual in-person meeting. And we'll keep doing that until it's safe to do otherwise. But I got
muted. To unmute yourself, press the star key twice.
Hi, Pastor Duncan. I'm not sure if you heard that or not.
Adam,
Yes.
Public comment line was not muted.
I'm so sorry about that, sir.
Okay. But this is a letter from the mayor of Alexandria, Louisiana. As you know, it has been a very busy hurricane season.